regardless to what life gives you, and life may knock you down a couple of times, you still just get back up. And so I would say my mom, the military is a combination of each other, but I think that it can be learned as you go through real estate, and it's going to be something that you're going to have to endure if you want to stay in this game, because real estate is tough. It is tough. Entrepreneurship is tough, but real estate is really tough.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
Hey, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Share the Wealth Show. This is the show where we discuss strategies on how to build, grow, and protect minority wealth. And today I have with me Miss Avriel DuVerney. Said it right. Every time, because it's so, I just never want to mess it up. It's so beautiful. Okay. Oh my goodness. So I just met Avriel last month, but she's been phenomenal, a powerhouse already, like giving so much value. We've been on calls, like she's just so giving with information and resources, and I love it. And I'm so glad that she agreed to be with us here today because, guys, this lady is busy. And so super blessed that you took out time today. So thank you so much for coming and joining with us.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so just start off, the listeners know nothing about you, who you are. Well, some might, your followers will, but tell them who you are and what you do and how you kind of got there.
Okay, so thank you again for having me on. So my name is Avriel DuVerney. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. After two short Brooklyn, my mom was in South Carolina. So I grew up in Fort Mill, South Carolina, where I attended Fort Mill High, graduated. I went into the military. I did 20 years in the United States Air Force. After leaving the Air Force, I started in real estate. And so I met Nicole on last month, and real estate is what I do. I eat, breathe, and love real estate. So I'm glad to be here to talk about real estate today. So that's what I do.
Nice. Okay. So I know from your presentation speaking at the conference that you are a contractor, right? Like so guys, ladies, guys, listeners, anybody listening right now, this is a Black woman contractor. That's super rare. It's already rare to see us in real estate in certain capacities. But as a contractor, one, to be a woman in the contracting world, and two, to be a Black woman in the contracting world, like I haven't seen that really. Like is super rare. So what made you get into being a contractor and wanting to do flips?
So I started out on this journey as an investor, right? And so as I went along on this journey, I started to add things to my tool belt. And so contracting was one of them. And the reason that I got so intrigued about the contracting work is because I was in the field working a few times, and this field is a male-dominated space, right? So male-dominated space. So I experienced being taken advantage of in the field, right? And it's because I didn't know my numbers. I didn't know how much material costs. I didn't know how much it was to to lay tile, to lay flooring. So I felt myself being taken advantage of in the field. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that I knew my numbers, and when I am doing a flip, to cut down on costs, make sure that I'm not overpriced for the things that the contractors were charging me. I went and got my contractor license, right? And so I began to learn about contracting because it was very important. If you're investing and if you're doing anything in this field, you need to know your numbers. So that's why I thought it was important for me to go get my contractor license, learn the game inside and out, so I could not be taken advantage of again while.
Okay. Give me an example of how you know, like, you were getting taken advantage of.
So what happened was I had someone that was charging me to lay floor. And so I was looking at a nearby home. And so oftentimes when I'm doing a flip, I'm walking nearby homes just to see the material, to see what the design plan that they have in there. And so there were contractors in there that were laying floors. And so I started having a conversation with them, and I discovered that the individual that was laying the floor in that house was charging the investor $1.25. I was being charged $5.46 for laying floor, and I was right around the corner from this home.
It wasn't the same team though. So, they would have known your face. Okay, so it's a different team, but still, that's a difference.
Yes. So that's how I discovered that I was being taken advantage of. So I went back to the contractors that were working on my home. I questioned them about it, and they became very aggressive with me. So at that point in time, I knew that if I didn't get out here and learn the contracting work, that I was going to be taken advantage of again. It may not be by the same team, but I'll be taken advantage of again. So that was my whole reasoning for going and getting my contractor license and learning everything I could about contracting.
Okay. And how long do you feel like it took you, because you start learning, and the more you do, the more you learn, right? And the more you do, the more you learn, the more expert you get and niche you get with the numbers and being really granular there. So how long did you think the process, like from the first time you decided to start doing contracting work, what was the time frame before you got your contracting license? And then about how long in doing did it take before you felt like you were competent enough to call contractors out on their BS, or subs out on the BS when they're mispricing you or price gouging you?
So every flip is different, right? And so every team that you bring in, the contractors that you bring in, they're going to quote you something totally different. So it's still times where I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And so I have people that I really, really rely on now, and that I run numbers by them if I feel like something is off. So I'm still learning. So I can't say that guys still are not trying to take advantage of me, because it still happens, right? But I'm so comfortable because I know the market that I'm in. And so this is why it's important knowing the market that you're in. So I know this market that I'm in. I stay in the areas where I know what the cost of laying floor, laying tile, doing sheetrock. I know the cost of that area. So I stay in areas that I'm familiar with. And if I'm not familiar with that area, I'm making sure that I go out and I do my market research to make sure that, hey, in this area, what is it costing them to lay tile? What is it costing them to do sheetrock? What is it costing them to do mud, paint, texture, and all of that? So I think just knowing the area that you're flipping in, or knowing the area that you're renovating in, that's like really key. So there's still times I have to run. I mean, I have partners, right? So I'll run it by them like, hey, does this sound about right? And then they'll be like, yeah, it's kind of high. So then I'll go back and have a conversation with the contractors and be like, hey, I think that I can find another crew to do it for this. Would you consider doing it for this? I want to work with you, but would you consider doing it for this? And so then they'll come back and be like, that's really not what we want to do, but yeah, we'll go ahead and consider. So, but yeah, I'm still learning every day. So the contracting work got me into the project management also, right? Of actually learning how to manage my project too. And so I know that we'll talk about that later, but the contracting got me into project management. So that's where I really like to play, is project management.
Nice. And I just want to call out to the point that Avriel just dropped a major negotiating gem there. In case you didn't hear it, she framed her negotiation in the way of, I still want to work with you, but I can find someone else to do it this way. I'm bringing it to you first because I would rather work with you. You know, like that's a negotiation tactic that I have heard of in so many different facets, even like in lending, if you're working with a broker, like, or a bank, you're building a bank relationship. Oh, I really want to work with you guys. I do know another lender that could do these terms. Would you be able to match that? Because I would rather work with you and build this relationship. So when someone knows that there's going to be future activity and business relationship, and you're an active investor and you're going to be doing more business with them in the future, a lot of people see that as part of their business plan and are growth minded enough to want to build that relationship because that's future revenue for their business as well.
Absolutely.
Looking to build wealth with real estate? Are you all tapped out on YouTube University and ready to get help tailored to your specific situation and goals? Have you always known that you are a little different from the crowd, that you never liked following the status quo, and that you're just tired of living in mediocrity? You want to build wealth on your own terms outside of Wall Street? Well, then maybe the Microfamily Mavericks mentorship program can help with that. It's a community where I handhold you through the process of buying your first small commercial multifamily building, because not everyone is ready for 100 units out the gate. Why multifamily? Because it gives your rental income a hedge against vacancy. Imagine what happens when your single family rental tenant leaves, right? And why commercial 5+ units? Because you have much more control over increasing the building's value in the commercial space, and then in turn, increasing your own net worth. Starting small is a stepping stone to so much more, because then you can tap that equity and buy another building and another and another, and you get the point. So increasing your cash flow and your ability to be job optional along the way. It's all a part of the journey. So if you think big, but you want to start small, and if you know multifamily real estate is a way for you to open the door to building a life of freedom, abundance, and legacy, but you just need someone to guide you step by step, and you want to be surrounded by other people on the same journey, doing the same thing, then just click the link in the show notes to find out a little bit more about the Microfamily Mavericks, and I look forward to potentially seeing you on the inside. So now back to the show. So that was great. Okay, so I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
So how did you get introduced to the idea of real estate investing, and I know you said you were looking at all different aspects of being an investor and making sure that you were competent. So that's what led you into the contracting and project management side of things. But what even got you into real estate and into investing at all? Did you come from that kind of family as a background? Did you go to a seminar? What happened there?
So I got intrigued with real estate because I seen my Uncle Jackie, take care of it. And so I thought that my uncle was going to be my coach. I thought he was going to be my mentor. I seen him take care of our family during crisis using real estate, right? And so I got intrigued at that time. And so I was like, hey, when I graduate or when I finish, the military, when I retire, I want to come and work with you. And I want you to teach me everything that you know about real estate. And tragically, 6 months after my retirement, I lost him. So on a whirlwind, trying to find someone that I really and truly trusted to teach me the game, right? So one, I had seen the way that he handled some of the men in the field. And so in the field as a woman, I got kind of intimidated. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to learn it the correct way. So what I did was I went and I worked for about a year for a district judge because I have a degree. I have a master's in criminal justice, and I also have an MBA. And so I was like, well, I'll just go work for, a judge or at the jail or something. And one day I was driving to work, and it was almost like my uncle was sitting in the passenger seat. And he said, you're not happy. I need you to go out here, and I need you to pick up the phone, call some of the people that I was working with to see if they will actually bring you on as a coaching client. So I remembered a couple of friends that he had. So I reached out to them and asked them if they would teach me the game, and that I was, I was Jackie Steele's niece. And so they took me in. I went and I set up under them and I learned for a little bit. And then I said, hey, I'm going to take this bull by the horns. And so I started down here in Texas, and I bumped my head a couple of times. And then I was like, you know what? I really want to do the fix and flip. So let me really and truly buckle down. Let me learn the game of fixing and flipping. And so I went and I invested in myself. I made a large deposit with a company, and people look at me now and they be like, you're crazy. Are you kidding me? You spent $50,000. So yes, I spent $50,000.
Oh, wait, a company, like a mentorship company?
Yeah, it was a mentorship company. It was a
wow.
And so I've always invested in myself, right? And so for me, this investment yielded a return that was a 6-figure flip. My first flip was a 6-figure flip. $1,000 yielded me six figures coming back in. And so I think for me, the investment was worth it, but that is really how I got intrigued by watching my uncle take care of our family using real estate. So that's how I got into real estate.
Wow. Okay. So I like that you said it was an investment in yourself.
Yes.
A lot of people don't want to spend any money on a mentor because they just think, oh, the information is out there. I could do it on my own. So I don't know if
Absolutely.
if that's like an ego thing, like, oh, I could be self-made. I can figure it out myself. You can eventually. How much time is that going to take? How many more errors and head bumps are you going to experience just going through it by yourself? Because you want to be able to, maybe you want to say, oh, I did this all by myself. But I also think people don't realize no matter how, no matter how successful you get, no successful person, even if they're self-made, air quotes, it actually did it by themselves. Like
Absolutely.
There's always a connection. There's always a resource. There's always information given, like so-and-so's dad knew so-and-so's uncle and they gave you a job over here or gave you the internship or whatever it is. So
Absolutely.
It's always some kind of somebody helped along the way somewhere, even if it wasn't physical labor and doing it for you and handing it to you on a silver platter.
Yes.
That's not the definition of not being self-made, I don't think. But anyway, you said you bumped your head a few times on the first way. So tell me one of the earlier flips or real estate investing scenarios or whatever happened that was a big like learning lesson.
So I came back. I had partnered with a few people out of Chicago. So I did a couple of flips in Chicago. And I said, you know what, I'm going back to Texas and I'm going to do this. Avriel got this now. So I've done a couple of deals up here. I'm about to take my talent to Texas. And I came to Texas and again, not knowing the ins and outs, all of the contracts, the paperwork. And so I was thinking about becoming a realtor so I could get more leads and get more deals so I could build more relationships. Because I'm always thinking about how I can add to what I already have. And so I went to this real estate class and I met a realtor, a licensed realtor there. And so we sat beside each other. We were just talking. And so she was like, well, what, you're planning on getting your license? You already have your license? I said, no. I said, I've done a couple flips. And so now I'm looking to see if I want to add a license to my tool belt, but I'm not sure right now. So this is why I'm taking this class. And it was a 3-day class. And so we started talking and, you know, before we left, she was like, hey, let me give you my number. I think we probably can partner on some deals together. And I got excited because she's a licensed realtor. She has a fiduciary duty not to take advantage of anyone. So I partnered with her on a couple of deals, not knowing that there are certain things and certain language that I need to look for in a contract. So she wrote up a contract, wrote up a promissory note. She was like, hey, we need to partner on this. I was so excited and I wired her $15,000. $1,000. And a week later, guess what? She changed her telephone number. She just like, it's almost like she fell off of the face of the earth, right? So
it's not funny. I'm sorry. It's not funny.
I still had her business card and I was like, so this lady just changed her telephone number on me? So I was like, okay. So I called her broker, had a conversation with her broker. Her broker said, that has nothing to do with me. You need to take that up with the Texas Real Estate Commission. I was like, okay. So took it up with the Texas Real Estate Commission. They told me I had to file criminal charges. When I filed criminal charges, took that back to them. So I kept getting the runaround. And so what I found out in that moment was that you can trust, but you need to verify also, right? And so I trusted that because she had a license, she had a fiduciary duty that she would not take advantage of me, but she did. The second thing is that I should have gotten a title search ran on the house when she gave me the signed contract and when she gave me the promissory note. I could have easily took that to the title company and say, hey, can you run title on this to tell me if this really belongs to her? Because what I found out was that she cultivated this contract that was false, right? So
I was about to say, is cultivated a nice name for like fabricated, like
absolutely.
Doctor?
Absolutely. So she
like
gave
Photoshop.
She gave me a fake contract. So she came to the table and she knew what she was doing out the gate. Even the company that she used had been out of business since 2013.
Oh my
It was
God.
in 2017 when we did this deal. So I had to go through the litigation of hiring an attorney, sending demand letters. It was a whirlwind, right? But then I thought that for people that this may be their last, right? So for her, she didn't know if it was my last or not. She asked me how much money I had. And I said, oh, I got 15,000. I had 15,000 to spare, right? So for me, I took the 15,000 and I invested because I'm always investing in myself. But if there had been someone that didn't have 15,000 to spare, they wouldn't have been able to hire an attorney to go after her, because I still had to hire an attorney. I still had to retain him. So there was another $10,000 that I had to pay out, and then all of the work that he had to do on the case. So by the end of the case, I ended up spending well over $40,000 just to get my $15,000 back. But I wanted her to know that I was not going to take this laying down, and you won't do this to anyone else. So I ended up pressing criminal charges against her, and I also did a civil suit against her. And then I won the civil suit. And so I was awarded $150,000. I don't know if I'll ever see $150,000. I've seen my $15,000, but I don't know if I ever see the $150,000 because pennies of what she's supposed to be paying me each month. So I say to anyone that's going out here and you really and truly don't know, I'm telling you, you need to get a coach, you need to get a mentor so you don't make the same mistakes that some of us have already made. I'll make the mistake for you, right? So just make sure you find somebody that's really and truly doing this and they're doing it the right way, and hire somebody to help you. Just don't go out here and do it, because people they're looking to prey on new individuals that are coming into the field.
They are. That's crazy. And so, and that just makes me think of, I mean, I've had my own situation with tenants not paying and having to take them to court and do that whole eviction process. And even a lot of people think mistakenly, because you get you win a judgment from a court, that equates to money in your bank account. And it does not.
It does not.
Like, I still have not recovered any of that rental loss. And I had to then, on top of not having income for the whole year, since they weren't paying, I had to go hire an investigator to find their bank accounts and find where they work. And look, the investigator, I spent a few $1,000s for that, and he came back with nothing. They had one bank account that was negative. They didn't have no jobs. I'm like, oh, they have jobs. I saw them going out in school every day. They work and they in a tech somewhere. Like, so it was just stuff like that. And I would think, oh, you have an order from a judge, they can just garnish their wages, they can take from their tax return or something. The court does not help you do anything.
Oh.
I have, yeah. So I that's why I was like, oh, did you get 150,000? Because I got excited for a second. And then you were like, I don't know if I'm gonna see 150,000. No. But you got your 15 back. Did you get the 40 back for the attorney fees?
That was roped into the 150. So that was a judge given to me. But I doubt that I ever see that, right? I mean, there's still hope, but you know, I wanted to make sure that she knew that you couldn't go out here and do this to individuals. And so we, you know, while going through my suit, I also found out that she had did it to someone in California. That's why she had left California and came here to Texas. And now she's left Texas and now she's in Michigan. So she goes to each state and she does the same thing. But I wanted to make sure that even though she's in Michigan, I made sure that I sent letters up there to let them know that, you know, they have a criminal in the state. So just make sure you watch her.
Yes. See, I love that. I love that. And so it definitely sucks for you. It's a big learning lesson, but I feel like you kind of bit the bullet in spending that extra money for the attorney fees just to show her, like, look, you can try to keep playing this game, but we're going to come after you and you can't just keep doing this to people. So at that point, it wasn't just about you. It was about future people who she might be able to take advantage of, because like you said, you don't know if somebody could lose their shirt and think, oh my God, like I took a chance, my life savings on investing in real estate, and now someone defrauded me and I have nothing left. And now they start over from scratch. They probably won't even go back into real estate because they're too scarred, you know? So thank you. I appreciate you for even taking that chance, taking, you know, that biting that bullet for the betterment of society in general. So thank you. Thank you for even going through that journey. That sounds, oh my gosh. I just think a couple of more gray hairs sprouted just hearing that story, because that would stress me out.
It happens though. It's
Yeah.
part, I always tell people it's part of the business, right? So
Yeah.
it's a risk that you take when you're investing in real estate. And so you have to be willing to take risks, in order to make money in real estate. But I wasn't going to allow it. I mean, for me, because it happened to me and because she was smart with me when I finally caught up with her, she's like, I just file you in my bankruptcy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll file you in my bankruptcy.
Yo, that just made my blood boil. I just want to if I didn't just buy this computer, I just want to punch my computer screen. And not for you, for her. Pretending her face. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Woosah. Woosah. All right. How did you develop such tough skin? Because I think getting in real estate, you have to learn how to be able to roll with the punches and take things like this as a lesson and not a loss, because it's not a loss until you stop. But some people are really sensitive, very emotional with any little thing, but you have to have the tougher skin to be in this business. Is that something that can be developed, or do you think you're just born with that?
I think it's something that can be developed, right? So I think the military gave me a sense of that toughness all the time. I'm not going to say that I'm always tough, because there are times when I'll be like, I just want to cry right now. I just can't believe that I'm going through this right now, right? So I picked fixing and flipping, which is the most stressful part of real estate, right? But I love the construction side of the business and I love a good challenge. But I think for me, the military taught me, how to just take a lick and keep going. But I always tell people that come into my coaching program, hey, you have to develop thick skin. So you have to learn how to have these hard conversations. You have to learn how to, when you get a lick, you just got to get up and you got to keep going, right? So I think over time, as you start to develop in this real estate space, right? Your why is going to get you up out of bed and your why is going to keep you going. So I think that the advantage, sometimes they say it's the advantage. I think for me, it's the military. The military got that sense of toughness. And sometimes I come off as being very, very harsh. And so, but I mean, the toughness came from the military. And so, but just seeing my mom as I was growing up, my mom was a tough cookie also. So I picked up some of those traits for her. Also, that regardless to what life gives you, and life may knock you down a couple of times, you still just get back up. And so I would say my mom, the military is a combination of each other, but I think that it can be learned as you go through real estate, and it's going to be something that you're going to have to endure if you want to stay in this game, because real estate is tough. It is tough. Entrepreneurship is tough, but real estate is really tough.
Yeah. And I think what you said is the why. The why has to be strong enough to get you out of bed and strong enough to keep you going through whatever the obstacle is that you encounter. And people probably hear, make sure your why, or what's your why all the time. And I don't think they really understand, your why can't just be the money, right? That's not a strong enough reason, because you will quit way too quickly. Yes. If that's the only thing making you move forward, or your only motivation for getting into real estate or whatever other tough industry that you're picking. Okay. So I do want to pivot a little bit. Okay. I know you said contracting got you interested into project management. And to me, I know listeners of this podcast are, I'm encouraging them to look at investing in rental properties, specifically multifamily. But in project management, that in my brain triggers the idea of asset management. It's kind of the same. You're overseeing the business plan for repositioning the property that you purchase. If you're going to do some type of value add and increase the equity or the cash flow or whatever. So in project management, what is it about project management that you like, and what like explain what project management is, especially for on the construction side, and how should people be going about, getting started in project management and making sure they have their T's crossed and I's dotted.
Okay, so the project management, so I got intrigued because after I started doing the contracting work, the crew that I was working with in Chicago, they always had a project manager on site. So the project manager was there to oversee the whole entire project. They are there to make sure that your project gets from A to Z. So, and if there's anything that's going on within the project, they are there to handle it. So they didn't bother the investors, right? And they didn't bother the realtor that was on the deal, because I was working with the realtor, the project manager, and the contractors, because I wanted to know everything about the project. This is my first time doing this, and I got a lot of money tied up in this, so I want to know about it. So watching this project manager, the way that he flowed, the way that he had systems in place, when he hit a roadblock, the way that he went around some of the roadblocks, I was like, man, I became intrigued, right? So I started digging in some of the material that he had. He had binders on site. So if there was something that was changed on the site, he was like, hey, we got to submit a change order. And I'm like, what is a change order? And he was like, oh, this is a form that they use, and we have to get with the investors to make sure that they agree with the change. And the change order could be like, hey, we wanted these finishes, we wanted gold finishes, but they don't have any gold finishes in. So to keep the project moving forward, we're going to use silver stain, and then maybe we'll paint it or whatever. So then a change order has to be submitted, and with the change order, it has to be sent to the investor, and the investor have to agree, and then the contractor has to agree, because there may be a price difference. So I started getting intrigued because I'm a systems girl. I love systems, right? I love for things to flow the way they're supposed to. So when things go right, I get on edge. So I got intrigued, and so I was like, man, I really want to learn how to do this. But I was in learning the construction part of it, and I wanted to make sure that the contracting part of it, I had that down, and then I will move to something different. So what they will learn with me, like when people work with me, they'll be like, okay, Avriel, you stick with one thing for 6 months to a year. I do, because I want to learn in and out. And I know there will be things that I'm still going to learn, but I want to make sure if someone comes to me, I'll be like, oh, yep, that's it. We need to move here. We need to move that. So I got intrigued with the project management because I've seen him, like the project just flow the way it was supposed to. And even when he hit roadblocks, he went around and he maneuvered around those, and he didn't have to pick up the phone and call anybody. I was like, yeah, I'm going to project manage my own deals from here on out. So I'm going to learn project management. So I ended up doing another investment. It wasn't a $50,000 investment, but it was a $15,000 investment. So I went and invested, and I learned project management. So now, I mean, I just keep adding stuff to my tool belt, right? Because you know when you may need it. And because I went and got myself certified for this project management, now I have people now seeking me out saying, hey, would you project manage my deal? That's another stream of income for me, right? So I'm not only doing my deals, but I'm also project managing other people's deals.
Okay, perfect. And I think you mentioned before that have you started, somebody hired you to project manage a multi-unit, right? Have you started that yet?
I'm project managing a 22 unit in Waco right now.
Are you enjoying this episode? Then stop what you're doing right now. Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps our show get pushed to more people who are looking for the information that we're sharing here. We have to share the wealth. If you listen to us on YouTube, make sure you like the episode that you're listening to right now and subscribe to our channel. Then share the channel with somebody else. There are people out there looking for the information you're listening to right now. So make sure you share it with someone who you know needs it. Now, back to the show. Okay. So the question I have then is, when you're doing a residential fix and flip, you're selling those to the end user, like the homeowner who's going to live in there. Normally you have to have upgraded finishes and, the real wood flooring and granite and all the other stuff. But when you have a rental property, you want things to look nice. You want them to look like they're wood or look like they're granite, but you want them to be more durable, not stained, not chipped, all those kind of things. So like for people who are looking to buy rentals, what are some areas that is there any suggestion on types of material that you should use for like flooring or countertops, or where you should source these from, and to get like a durable quality that will last through the not abuse, but like the use of someone who doesn't own the property. So they don't really care if they slam something on the desk. You know what I mean? Like something like that, because as you're turning units, you don't want to have to replace things every time somebody moves out, because you want it to be durable and just put that cost up front. So I know that was a long question, but yeah, any suggestions or ideas on the types of materials you should be looking for, or where to source them?
So it depends. So the units that I'm turning over in Waco, right? They wanted something that was durable, but they didn't want to spend an arm and a leg for each unit, because they're turning 22 units, right?
Yeah.
So they looked and they say, hey, for each unit, we want to spend no more than $45,000 a door. And I was like, okay, so what are we turning in here for $45,000 a door, right? So are we doing floors? Are we doing walls, bathrooms? And so when I walked into these units, most of these units, the bathroom needed to be done in all of them because they had plumbing issues. The HVAC needed to be done. And also they had tile work that needed to be done in some of them. And the electrical and all of this. So I was like, there's no way that you can get these turned with $45,000 a door, right? So then we had back to the table and we said, hey, what are some of the finishes that we may want to like do without for now until you start cash flowing in these assets? And then we can actually come back in and maybe do something different. So what we did is that instead of replacing the cabinets, we're sanding down the cabinets, we're staining the cabinets, and we're going to paint the cabinets. So anything that we could salvage inside of the apartment units, that's what we were doing. But like the big mechanical things, those are things that you can't get around, right? So people need a home where they can flush and stuff goes down. They need to make sure that the electrical panel is not working because they've had a fire in one of these units because of the electrical power, right? So she had I think you call it like a little strip, and she plugged the wall, and then she over surged the protector, and so they had fire in there. So it told me that, hey, we need to update these panels. Some of the homes have been updated with the panels, some of them were not. So I think when you go inside of a unit, you just need to see what needs to be done, and then depending on how they tell you, I mean, for the amount of money that they want to spend for each unit, will determine what type of finishes and flooring and all of that you can actually put in it. Because I mean, they wanted expensive paint, right? They wanted the silk finish looking paint. I was like, not for no $45,000 a door. That's not going to happen, right? So there's
is the silk finish paint more durable? Because I know I've heard some paint, it has like a better quality, so like you can wipe it clean instead of repainting. Like, is all paint basically the same? Is that marketing, or is there some paint that is better than other paint?
So they were doing it because of the appearance, because they were going to look at 3 years, right? So they wanted something going to be attractive. They wanted something that could possibly last. But I'm like, you better get some there and you better keep it moving, right? So just get the paint right now. We just need to make sure that it looks presentable, that it's rentable, and then we can come back in and do all of the other things. But again, it goes to the sponsor, right? So the principals that are on this was their second unit. I mean, the second asset that they purchased, and they overpaid for the other asset that they had, and they over rehab because it's a rental. It's wear and tear that's going to be inside of these homes, right? And it wasn't in an area where you have like doctors and nurses. You're looking in a lower income area, and so it's going to be a lot of wear and tear. People that had vouchers with a lot of kids, right? So you just got to think about the area that you're going in and you're rehabbing in, and that will require like the material and stuff. And so we have contracts and we have vendors that we work with where we can get bulk of things. And so just building those relationships and going to the vendor and be like, hey, I need something that's going to be real sturdy. I need something that's going to be durable, but I need it to look presentable also. So we don't want to lay floor and then they come in there and they're moving stuff all over the floor and then the panels pop or whatever. So it just depends.
Oh my goodness. So those were some major gems right there. So guys, if you are looking to buy rentals, don't go in there. And I hear this all the time, like, because people want to renovate with what they would want to live in. Like they're looking at it with the eye of like, oh, I wouldn't live in here, but this is not for you. This is an investment. You are not going to live here. You can still make things nice, clean and presentable and lasting and durable without upgrading over what market will bear. And it also depends on the class of tenant that you have and who are the tenants that are going to live in your unit. So that's going to be a big, what class area are you in, a class A or B area? Is this a B or C building? Because that all depends on how your unit should look and what money you should spend on the inside. I'll tell you, I went to my 3-unit the other day to re-sign lease with my tenants. They're on vouchers and they are wonderful. I love that. They just like calls me, no problems. Everything's okay, right? And there's never like an issue. I went over there, signed the lease, and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my God, this is why you're supposed to do regular inspections to see the quality of your place. Because yeah, they have a few kids, and no matter how nice they are, like their kids literally because I could tell halfway from the wall down, their height was just pen marks, crayons, markers all over all the walls. That I just had this whole apartment repainted right before they moved in here. And I looked around, I was looking at the walls like, you don't know how much like I didn't say nothing. I just looked, but I wanted to bring it up so bad. Like, what are they doing on these walls? Y'all can't do that. But I left it. I'm like, they do have a security voucher. So whenever they do move out, I can cash that voucher and get the place repainted and everything else. And just even like, there was a leak by the window in the living room, and I could see like from the curtains like that the plaster at the bottom was kind of like wearing out, and it looked like you could tell there was water damage. So I'm looking, so I did point to that, because water is not something you want to play with, people. You need to, any water issues, you got to get fixed. So I pointed that, said, okay, so what's happening here? Like, is that from water leaking from the windowsill? And they're like, yeah, but it's no big problem. It's no problem, no big deal. Because they don't want to, they just want to live in peace. They don't want to cause any issues. They don't want me to have to come out, like fix a bunch of things. So they don't complain about stuff, which is good and bad, because I need to know when things are happening, because I just need to, I've tried to piecemeal that window a few different times. And this is a lesson for everybody listening. Please don't do that. Just spend the money up front to get things done correctly the right way the first time. And learn to vet, because the contractor, air quote contractors, I don't know what he is, but he had turned one of my units before. And so I contacted him and I said, do you know how to replace windows? Because another set of my tenants were fighting and broke that living room window. And so I had that replaced. And he's like, oh yeah, I know how to do it. I know how to do it. Ever since he replaced it, nothing but problems. It just leaks, and anytime there's rain or water or anything. And before it was worse. And I have had him and like 2 or 3 other contractors coming in and sealing with rubber cement on the outside, climbing up ladders, doing all the things to make this not leak anymore. And it still leaks. Because I found out that first guy who told me, oh yeah, I could do this window, that was the first window he had ever replaced. And he was like, oh, I'm never going to do another window like that before. That was the first one I did, and I'm never going to do that again. He told it to me when I had him back in there to see why it was leaking. I'm like, really, dude? Like, you just lied to me and told me you could do a window. And I didn't vet it more. I didn't ask for pictures or references or how many windows have you replaced before. Like, I should have dug in on the questioning. So like Avriel said before, trust but verify, and get the information that you need to make a proper decision. And if I had went to, a big window specific company that was like a licensed window company, I would have paid an arm and a leg, but guess what? It would have been finished right the first time. And then years later, I wouldn't be having the issue. So now guess what I got to do? I spent all this money on this window already, but now I got to hire the licensed people that I should have hired the very first time. So everyone just learn from my mistakes. I shared that story to let you know how important it is to trust and verify your contractors, and to also just make sure you put the right products in and don't over renovate, all the things. So when someone is, because you said, we are going to wrap soon. Oh my goodness, look at the time. Anyway, this is a great conversation. My people, they're used to me and my wonderful guests just chatting for a long time, because we got so much gems and things to unearth here. Okay, guys, don't kill me, but I'm going to have to cut this episode short. This is too juicy, and we need to do this in a part 2. So stay tuned for the next episode that airs, and you can hear the rest of our conversation.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.